Today's episode of the Mind Sculptors podcast is brought to you by TCG Player, your source for all your trading card game needs. Please consider using our link in the description for your next purchase, as it helps support the continued refinement of our show. This episode is also made possible through the gracious support of our Patreon members. If you wish to join this esteemed group, simply visit patreon.com/The Mind Sculptors and become part of the SCULPTY family today. And of course, if you prefer a simpler gesture, we invite you to subscribe, leave a like and comment on YouTube, or leave a review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts as a most fitting offering to the ever-watchful algorithm Jesus.
Fuckers at home don't like your non-basic lands, baby, because they're under attack today. Boom, boom. That's right, bitches. Is this the most aggressive energy I started the podcast with in quite some time? You bet your sweet patoots it is. Lock and load, fuckheads. It's Dragon time.
This week on Dragon Ball Z.
I feel like sort of like a half-assed, criticism of the audience is like a fun little energy that I kind of want to start with just from now on.
No, for sure. I really like it. I think I was personally really enjoying the comments last week that we were getting of timestamp at 7 minutes and 30 seconds. It's like, we're 7 minutes in. Still haven't talked about Magic. Do you ever talk about Magic? He's like, no, over the course of the 60 plus minutes, we don't talk about it at all. That's why everybody in the comments are talking about decks we talked about.
Yeah.
It's all a ruse. Those are all bots.
You've been bamboozled.
And
now we're going to talk about the fact that we talk about Magic for 7 minutes.
I think that's fun, personally.
Yes. Listen, if this was a succinct YouTube channel, maybe like youtube.com/ComedIan MTG, you might get right into the meat of it, right? But this is a podcast.
This wasn't a podcast.
Yeah, it's a podcast. Everyone knows that podcasts have to start with the first 10 or at least 5 to 15 minutes of sort of just masturbatory mentioning of everyone's, sort of generalized day to day, right?
Yeah.
Someone sent me something recently about scooters. And I believe it was someone international who was like, hey, let Cal know scooters are still a giant pain in the ass around the world. Basically, like me from this country, scooters are a giant pain over here, just in case you're curious.
If you sent that message to Ian, please comment down below,
please
we know
down below
exactly where you're coming from. If you have a Lime scooter story to share, please drop it in the comments. And while you're down there, also give us a like. And if you aren't already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. We are trying to get to 10,000 subscribers before the end of the year. You want to know where we're at right now as of time of recording, Ian?
At least 2.
At least 2, yes.
Yes.
If you had to guess what we are at right now, what number do you think we're at?
Okay, so for context, I have not looked in a very long time. I
only mention it every week.
Yeah, I know you do. I do not listen. I'm gonna guess like 93.86.
Okay. We are at 9,000. We're at 9,867.
Whoa, we're close. No shit.
We're getting there. We're moving.
Yeah.
So like I say every week, if everybody who was watching this video subscribed, we would get there today. So if you're watching us, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button. For some reason, most of the people who watch this channel aren't subscribed, which is bizarre.
But actually, if you look at YouTube statistics overall, it's actually a pretty common pattern of.
I know it's a common pattern, but I don't fucking understand that pattern.
It's a weird pattern. Yeah. All right, listen up. We're back.
We're still 3 minutes and 45 seconds in. We still have 4. We still have like
this is good. Actually, I do have another tangent.
Yeah.
So we all remember Balloon Con, right? So obviously there's been some riffing on that in public, but what many people don't see is that my patron channel in my Discord, which is, sometimes people are very active in there, sometimes they take breaks for a while.
Right.
There have been just like dozens of people posting balloon emojis and nothing else.
I feel vindicated. It makes me feel great. I gotta tell
you. There's balloon gifs. There's the 99 Red Balloon song music video has been posted at least once. Like there is just so many balloons in my patron Discord right now.
That is so incredible.
Yeah. And it's been named, I believe the channel's been named Ian's Harem for like 5 years now. And it's to the point where most of the people in there, I'm pretty sure, don't even know why it's named that, but I haven't changed it. And so like that being filled with images of balloons is just it's truly powerful.
That's a very specific energy.
Yeah, for sure.
Gives off a very specific vibe. I don't know what that vibe is, but
I also find it very funny that this conversation is currently being held within a podcast that people are still flagging as a Christian podcast.
Yeah, a Christian scooter podcast.
Yeah.
We are somehow in the Christian algorithm because we've brought it up enough.
Yeah.
And because we say Jesus enough. And evidently that gets you into the Christian like bucket of stuff. Is very funny.
The Christian bucket, where everyone
Christian
lives.
bucket. Well, they have like different genre buckets that they like put you into. If you're a podcast, they put you in this, and then they like sort you. Whatever. Okay.
Whatever.
But
Let's talk about blood moons. I want to talk about blood moons.
So kid, I hear you didn't want your opponents to have non-basic land access.
Yeah, cool, Cal. Tell me more.
Yeah, so there are these 3 really cool cards. Most notable, they're called Blood Moon effects, right?
Uh-huh.
And
you gotta lock in a little bit more of this character.
I know. Yeah, it really is everywhere. I couldn't figure out if I was going with like a Hyde from that 70s show vibe.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Or if I was going like, a cool youth pastor vibe.
Yeah.
And the problem is I had like
you made a hybrid.
The middle.
Yeah.
And the middle was nothing. So
hey kids, let's talk about blood moons.
So anyway, we've talked a lot about the whole like blue moon archetype on this channel a lot, especially post ban. And last week we went through and we talked about a bunch of different commanders that we thought were winners after this ban, and especially commanders that are more off the beaten path commanders. And one that we talked about very specifically was Galazeth Prismari. If you are unfamiliar with Galazeth, I don't know why I keep omitting that A. Galazeth is a 3/4 legendary elder dragon that costs 2 generic, a blue and a red, has flying, and it says whenever it enters the battlefield, create a treasure token, and artifacts you control have add 1 mana of any color. Spend this mana only to cast an instant or sorcery spell. So this has been something that Ian and I have talked about, probably as a commander since it came out. And it obviously has some very strong, synergies and abilities. But again, like we said last week, when you have Docksides out there that are running around that are really kind of punishing decks like this, you don't really get to experiment with it a whole lot. Well, now that that's gone, now we get to work around and play with it some. And, the archetype that we feel like fits it the best, at least, is, a few cards that make a lot of sense straight off the bat because of its ability to make those treasures and its ability to kind of color fix you anyway, is the Blue Moon strategy. If you're unfamiliar with Blue Moon, this is a strategy that I want to say it originates in Modern.
I believe so.
Where it's a blue-red control deck that uses the Blood Moon effects and, different control pieces to win the game. Modern has a notoriously non-basic land mana base, or at least did when this was a thing, and I think it still does to this day.
Yeah.
And what this did was it really put you, the Blue Moon player, in a really strong position because you kind of constricted your opponents on what colors they had access to.
Yeah, yeah.
And so this is that strategy, but in Commander. And so we've been talking about this a lot on the channel. And we figured, what the hey, let's talk about it in a whole podcast. Let's live brew this motherfucker. I love how I didn't say hell, but I definitely said motherfucker. It's fine. We're cool. This is that cool youth pastor / Hyde energy that I've been bringing today.
We don't need to bring it back. We don't need to bring it back.
So so Ian, we've talked about this a lot. Where obviously I've already added the 3 centerpiece cards. What are the cards that when we're talking about this outside of this that you feel like really flush this thing out?
Yeah, so if you refresh the page, I do have I threw some cards on the sideboard, right? And what I've thrown in already are there's 2 sort of camps that I've sort of thrown in there, right? Which is no, you leave the Fallout one. You leave it now.
I'm trying to use arts that people will immediately recognize.
Yeah, the Fallout ones.
Okay.
But yeah, basically what you're going to find in a lot of these circumstances is that there's sort of this like delineation between some of these Blue Moon strategies. Like some people will make their deck more back to basics friendly. Other people will make them more Blood Moon friendly. And it really depends on what you're sort of doing with that archetype, right? So there's like sort of a fundamental difference with how some of those work, right? Like Blood Moon and Harbinger of the Seas, like don't necessarily punish you for playing a couple non-basics, right? Whereas back to basics and Winter Moon are a little bit more punishing as far as that aspect is concerned, right? So that's why some of these more conditional ones, like we are clearly going for the quote moon effects, right? Like the ones that just convert your lands, right?
This
so it is another
like
interesting
a straight up stack. Like
Well, in a sense, right? I would consider this deck more like tempo, right? Because what you're doing is like you're expecting to resolve like a stacks piece, right? That will then be disruptive to your opponent long enough to buy you out of the scenario where it's like, yeah, you're playing these colors because they break such a parity on these pieces, right? Yeah.
I think something that kind of got lost, something that I think people who maybe haven't played since like 2024 or really 2020, right? Who started playing around that time or newer is that like blue stacks were like in blue red stacks were like,
oh yeah,
very much things. And those were things that kind of went away post Flash because Dockside kind of took it back.
Right.
But like I think about like Joyra Weatherlight Captain used to be a stack.
I mean, Keranos was like an actual tier deck in the format, right?
And that doesn't mean that they couldn't. And those were decks that had the ability to like go over the top, right? Because they had those things in the command zone that helped them do that. And that's why I kind of I call this. It's a different type of stack than I think what we're used to.
Yes,
because I think in the modern era of cEDH, stacks are white decks at their core.
Yes.
And this is a very different brand.
This is going back to the old things, right? And it's like a lot of the white decks are creature based, right?
Right.
Which is important because these effects are more resilient, right? Like if you look at a deck like I brought this up a lot recently, like most traditional ROG side decks right now, they have a Chain of Vapor and then no other way to bounce non-land stacks pieces, right? Like that is a really big difference in comparison to like creature removal, right? Like the fact that creatures catch strays all the time, especially in a Bowmaster's meta, right? But like thinking about like how often it is that a Deafening Silence or a Blood Moon gets actually dealt with is like kind of huge, right? Like it doesn't get hit by Culling Ritual, it doesn't get hit by a lot of the creature interaction. Like those are really important distinctions that are relevant here for these deck lists that we're working on,
Yep, for sure. These are all cards that I think are super solid. Winter Moon I think is great. Obviously, that I love Winter Orb and Static Orb. And
So that's the other cards I think we should talk about for a second, right? Which is that we're also playing the quote Urza cards, right? As in, because of let's read Galazeth and then let's jump into this next category. Actually.
We already did read Galazeth. I opened the show with reading Galazeth.
Oh, okay. Just kidding. Ha ha ha. As we
it's
covered last
second
week,
ability on Galazeth that we're talking
it's
about.
the second ability that allows you to tap your artifacts for mana to cast instants and sorceries. Now, if we're not doing that, that's still okay because we are just tapping to float the mana, right? We don't need to actually cast anything.
It's the same thing you do in Urza, right? Where it's like it doesn't really really matter if you're casting something
Yes.
with it. It's more about the fact
Yes.
that you can tap it.
Yeah. Now, Galazeth's mana ability is worse than Urza. Like, we can all
Yes, very
agree.
much.
There's no ambiguity to that, right? It is much worse. But at the same time, gives us access to red, right? Which is kind of one of the things we're looking for as an appeal here for this deck, right?
Right.
The biggest question, at least on my mind when looking at this deck, Cal, is going to be, how are we winning? You know?
Right. That's a good question. Blue-red win cons are interesting.
Yes. They struggle.
You kind of have like a couple of buckets, or of things that you can do. I've used the term buckets quite a lot today, I suppose.
It's okay.
I'd like to find a different word. Categories. There we go. That might be a better term for it. We traditionally think about, like, the famous blue-red win cons. You got breach stuff, right? But outside of that, I think what I have historically thought the most about it with has always been kind of using Storm as a means to win in blue-red is typically what I've experienced to be the best ways of winning. And this is one of the things about these classic blue-red Staxy type of decks, right? Is, like the way that like Joyra, and people would be like, well, isn't Joyra a Storm deck? It's like, yeah, it absolutely was. And it was a Stax deck. And that was part of what made it so good, was it would play these pieces, right?
Yeah,
that would
modality
slow everybody down, and then it would just explode on you and win. And that is something that I think was very powerful about that deck, and is very powerful about that deck. And I think this has a very similar thing to it, right? Where you're able to use some of that ability to just kind of really quickly go through it.
Also, if you would like to refresh again, I've thrown several win condition packages in the sideboard. There's the breach lines, right? Grinding Station and traditional Brain Freeze LED. I've also thrown in the Hull Breaker, like Cal already talked about, and I also talked about
Splinter Twin.
Yeah, well, hey, you know what? We're playing fucking Blue Moon, right? Like, it is legitimately how this deck would win in Modern, right? Is you just get a Splinter Twin or a Kiki Jiki, and you just
pour one out for the homies.
Do the things. Yeah. I mean, well, rest in peace, right? But like, and look, in modern cEDH, is that the best thing to be doing at all times? Absolutely fucking not, right? But doesn't mean it's not worth playing, period, right? Now, here's some reasons to potentially sell you on some of these cards, right? So one, the package is tutorable, right? In these colors, there's a decent amount of ways to like get these creatures, especially because all of the pieces for the combo as creature wise are at least Imperial recruiterable, right? Kiki Jiki is acquirable through a number of different means, right? Pestermite and Deceiver Exarch, you can always go get like a Drift of Phantasm, Corridor Monitor, you can use Muddle the Mixture. Splinter Twin's the hardest one to get, but that's okay. I think we can live in reality where we're like, if we draw a Splinter Twin, fucking let's go. And if we don't draw a Splinter Twin, Kiki Jiki it is, right?
Right. And the other thing too is Pestermite and Deceiver Exarch, while they aren't like incredible when they're in your hand, they do have functions that are helpful. So like, are they the best things that you could have in your hand at any given time? No, but they are things that allow you to play that tempo plan.
Yes. And also their synergy with the One Ring is insanely
pretty
powerful.
Good. Pretty good.
Just being able to like, tap your One Ring, play your, Quarter Monitor, etc., and then like untap and like do the thing is very, very nice, right? So there's kind of that aspect to it, which I do think is like an appeal for a deck like this one,
Yeah, 100%. And with Deceiver Exarch and Pestermite, you're able to do that at instant speed, which I think is a huge thing that we've talked about a lot on this channel, right? Is like how good Flash is. And so I think like Pestermite and Deceiver Exarch there like really kind of earn their keep, so it were.
Yeah. And then like there's also stuff you can do with like Nexus of Fate, which is a extra turn effect that like shuffles itself back into your library, which is like if you have Ice Crown Scepter, Mystical Tutor, Nexus of Fate, because of how much mana you make for instants and sorceries with this deck, it is kind of easy to be able to turn the corner as far as that part is concerned.
I will say I am concerned about Underworld Breach in a deck like this, because it's not that we can't play it. It's that it if we do play it,
How do you get it?
What'd you say?
How do you get it?
Well, how do you get it? And then it also tells us what stacks pieces we can and cannot play.
Yes and no. So one thing I like about Grinding Station with Underworld Breach in this deck is that if you play something, for example, like Graph Digger's Cage, which I feel like is where we were headed with that part of the conversation.
Wow, weird that you could figure that one out.
You can easily just like go, okay, cool, like going for my breach line, play the Grinding Station, crunch my own cage. Hopefully your opponents aren't immediately then like Court of Calling, blah, but like sometimes it do be like that,
right?
And yeah, so the idea is strong with that. One thing I think that is going to be important to think about if we do not go Kiki lines with this deck, right? This is going to be such a good Curse Totem deck, like insanely good with Curse Totem, because then Curse Totem immediately becomes a mana rock right away, which is obviously like bonkers, right? And no, it's not. What am I talking about? Scratch that whole thing, because this is all, it's a Galazeth ability.
No, it gives it grants artifact. It doesn't work the way Urza works. That's also why it's a little worse, because it gets nerfed by a null rod really hard, because it's a granting ability, not a creature based ability.
Right, but I mean, I would rather be able to play Curse Totem, to be honest.
I mean, same.
Yeah. No, that's sick. Okay, cool. Even better. I'm super happy with that, right? Like Urza can work through Null Rod, Galazeth works through Curse Totem. Fuck yeah. Okay. Let's do it.
Kaboom, right. Baby.
Yeah. But once again, it's if we don't feel that Kiki lines are necessary.
Yeah.
So, at least on the sideboard. And then other stuff like extra turns is like a pretty classic is it win condition, right? It's not like
is it?
I mean, classic in the sense that it is a classic, right? Not the sense that it's the best thing you can be doing, right? So I mean, it's something to consider, I should say, right?
Yeah. I think
you could.
I think the biggest issue with the turns packages is going to be they're awfully expensive, which isn't a problem necessarily in a deck like this.
Yeah.
But you also still have to be able to protect them, and when they're that expensive, they get harder to protect.
Well, that's kind of the like appeal of this commander specifically for that package, right? Like I'm not jamming extra turns in a lot of my decks, right? But like specifically here, we're talking about a reality in which we are trying to, basically like have a lot of mana for instants and sorceries and stuff like that, right? So that's where these things come in, right?
For sure. 100%.
I think we're, no matter what version of this deck, and correct me if you think I'm wrong here, but like I feel like no matter what, we're on some sort of dual caster stuff here.
Yeah, 100%. Like it's a red deck, right? Like you put in, like that's just a solid, like tier 2 maybe is the term I'm looking for. Like secondary win con, tier 2. Jesus, secondary win con. That I think goes fine with everything.
Yeah.
And at worst, you can use your, that's not the best use of your mana, but you can use those like the copy spells to at minimum create yourself a treasure token, which is
sure. Yeah. And what
a use of your mana.
What I like about playing the blue version of Dual Caster is that like you can play cards that traditionally aren't played as much. Like I unironically think this is like a deck where you could play like Rite of Replication, right? And then just go crazy. You know what I mean? Like just actually make like this would be more of like a, well, I guess that doesn't work with this version. No, I'm thinking more of the instant ones. Which is like, I guess, is it just quasi duplicate? Is that the only one that works to instant speed? Because I'm talking about the ones that make hard copies, right? So you just have them forever. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Right of duplication. You sent me on a journey there in my head.
No, I'm talking about some real boomer shit.
I was just like, Ian, this is not a casual deck.
Get out of here. It's fine. Okay. Yeah. Cackling Counterpart is one that works. Okay. Cool. Quasi duplication. And then obviously we can also play the red ones that make the hasty copies, right? But
right. And I think the one that the new one that makes the what is it? The one from cowboy set that makes the
3
artifact
steps
ones.
ahead.
Yeah, it's like really, really good. What?
3 steps ahead.
No, the copy spell that works with Dualcaster Mage.
Oh, you're talking about yeah. Okay, I was literally looking at a blue create token that's a copy of target creature thing from Outlaws. But yes, Molten Duplication is perfect here. Yes.
There it is. Molten Duplicated. I was like, somewhere this card has a name.
Yeah.
I knew it wasn't the one you said. And I was like, I'm gonna get there eventually.
Listen, I'm cooking here, okay?
Listen, guys, we're cooking. It might be meth, but we're cooking.
Yeah, you're right.
Interesting thought. I don't know if you're looking at my screen, but this could be a decent Magda deck.
I had also considered that potential as well. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a thing. I'm just kind of looking at EDH Rec right now just to get like an idea of like some stuff that we could play potentially.
I was literally just scrolling through the entirety of the Is It and blue and red combo pages. Yes, that is exactly
the Magda being like a thing that you can do is interesting. I'm going to add that to my clipboard.
Yes, it's also worth considering that Magda is something that we have very limited tutors for as well, right? Like it's basically
I mean, all of our the tutors that get the Kiki package also get this.
Correct. It's
for what
one.
It's yeah, that's true. That is one, but.
It is a tutor, right? Like that's my well, I guess 2, right? You can get Muddle as well, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. Ooh, I hadn't thought about this.
Yeah, I mean, and to be clear, if we do go on Displacer Kitten, right? Like I actually don't hate Displacer Kitten in this deck, right?
Yeah, I think Displacer Kitten fits in this deck fairly well.
Because just worst case scenario, you're just flickering your commander and making a treasure, right? Like worst case scenario entirely, right? And that's fine. I think that's completely fine. And the fact that also Displacer Kitten has the potential to turn Imperial Recruiter into a 1-card combo in general, because like you can always, because once again, mana is not going to be a problem for instants and sorceries. It is going to be a problem for hard casting shit like Kitten and Imperial Recruiter over and over again, right? But TLDR is you go get Imperial Recruiter, you go get Kitten, you then assemble whatever combo you need to assemble with X amount of variables, right?
Right.
Problem is, once again, we're not having this overabundance of mana for these purposes. We have an overabundance of mana for instants and sorceries, which sort of relegates us down one lane of brewing with this deck, right? Which is why, once again, my default keeps going back to, well, let's abuse the broken part of this card, which says I make a stupid amount of mana for instants and sorceries, right?
Yeah, I think the what is it, the Displacer Kitten makes the most sense with like doing like making mana is like the best thing it does.
Yes.
So I think that is one thing to keep in mind as far as that goes. Ooh, Stormkill Artist in this deck is
just like our music. We take a little bit of ska.
I mean, for those listening, I really apologize. I was Robert De Niro facing really hard just then, just. What do you think of that, Fokker?
Elegant description, Cal. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can fuck with that. I think ska is like fine. I think it's fine.
We're an instant sorcery deck, right? Like I think it's a deck that does the thing with our commander and also synergizes with what we're doing anyway.
Is it Saheeli is another one to consider too, right?
Which one?
The War of the Spark Saheeli.
Yeah. Yeah, that's not bad.
Yes, that one.
Saheeli Sublime Artificer.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I dig that.
And unless I'm mistaken, there's one in Urza that we play a decent amount. That's whenever you cast an instant sorcery, you make a clue.
That's a newer card, is it not?
Like Shadows over Innistrad, so no.
Oh, maybe not. Oh. Trail of Evidence.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah. Okay. I was like, I was like, man, that sounds like a newer card. And then you said Shadows, and I was like, oh no, I know exactly what card you're talking about.
Hell yeah.
Sick. Yeah, I'm just kind of looking. I'm just kind of getting an idea into what the world out there is doing.
You super don't have to vamp if you want to just leave dead space for you to edit out later, which is very funny to me.
Listen, you can take the man out of the radio, but you can never take the radio out of the man.
Yeah, I mean, see a doctor, I think.
What?
I said see a doctor, I think. Doctor, please, my friends had a radio inserted inside of them. I think you do play Magda for free. Like, I feel like it really
I feel like it's just super free to play Magda in this, right?
Yeah. Like Inspired Tinkering, hell of a fun card in this deck.
Inspired Tinkering.
4 in red, so expensive, but exile top 3. Until the end of your next turn, you may play those cards, and you make 3 treasures. So, like, basically cost 2 mana in this deck. Yeah. Do you find it funny that Strike It Rich is just like a Birds of Paradise with your commander?
That is really fucking funny.
I guess we definitely want let's pad out the deck a little bit with like some of the necessary inclusions, which I'll take care of that and I guess you can
do that. I'll keep scrolling the Rex.
Scrolling. And I'll verbally describe what I'm doing. So of course we want to add our sort of artifact package, cEDH fast mana package, right? Which at this point is a little adjusted, I might say. But we have our no sad. Good fun format, much brew. Okay, so we got our Soul Ring, we got our Chrome Mox. We have
this new Ponder art slaps.
What?
Have you seen this new Ponder art from the new commander sets with Aminatou on it? That slaps.
Not my favorite.
Okay, anyway, continue.
We got a Lotus Petal. We've got a Mana Vault. You know, the classics so far. I think with a deck like this one, we will not have problem getting to Mox Opal, realistically speaking.
Are you sure? I think it might be tight.
Yeah. I have a feeling this is going to be an Arcane Signet deck because the relationship, I think we've talked about this a little bit, but specifically with Ancient Tomb into Arcane Signet for 4 mana commanders is very, very solid and a curve we really want to sort of exacerbate as much as we can, right?
Yeah.
So that's one we'll definitely prioritize for sure. And I think we can lock in that 7 as our start, and then we can think about, some other ones that I might throw into the sideboard. So like Jeweled Amulet, for those who don't know, is like one that people have considered a lot in these Urza style decks because like you can still tap it even if you use the charge early to get your commander out.
Yep.
There's Mox Amber, which is much of the same thing, pretty dead without your commander, but with your commander, obviously it's quite exceptional there. While we're talking about early ramp, we're going to throw in Ragavan.
Raggy boy.
Yeah, good old Raggy swag.
Take me home.
And then the other sort of artifact ramp pieces we'll leave to when we have a little bit less ambiguity as to what that kind of looks like. I do think we're obviously a 1-ring deck. We're talking about artifacts to include there. And then that also brings us to our other conversations about Mystic and Ristic, right? We're not going to ever leave home without those cards. They are very, very powerful.
Are you sure? I think they're pretty cope, personally.
Yeah, hashtag mid.
Yeah, they're pretty mid. Let's just listen. I was talking to the boys.
Yeah.
And what the boys were saying, they're not into it.
Yeah. Well, tell Homelander. Wait, no, he's not the boys. It's the other guys that are the boys. Shit, wait. Tell Huey that he's wrong about Ristic Study.
What about Dewey and Louie, though? What am I going to tell them?
Yeah, it's true. That DuckTales The Boys crossover was a wild episode.
The crossover we were all looking for.
The crossover we never wanted, but knew was inevitable. Few things in life are guaranteed, but death, taxes, and the
The Boys DuckTales crossover.
Oh man. Okay. Y'all don't want to subscribe to this? So, this card, Reign of Riches, right?
Mm-hmm.
Enchantment, when it enters, make 2 treasures, right? It's 5 mana, so it's expensive, right? But it says specifically, the first spell you cast each turn that mana from a treasure was spent to cast has Cascade. If you are tapping a treasure with your commander, I believe that should trigger, right?
Judge,
You're a judge.
listen, I haven't judged in a minute. I think that works because that is where the mana is coming from. The ability is granted, because if it was Urza, it wouldn't work that way.
Right, because it's coming from Urza.
Urza, right?
Yeah.
The cost is tapping the artifact, but Urza is the thing generating the mana. Whereas with this, it is the artifact generating the mana.
Right. Okay.
Okay, I can fuck with it.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a final cut card.
First pass.
First pass. That's a bit that's never gonna get old.
No.
I was
thinking about that the other day. I don't remember why. Something came up where I was brewing a deck and I was like, first pass.
First pass.
Who's Cal?
Here's a card for you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Curse of Opulence. Just saying.
Just what are you really going to the dragon theme, handing out gold?
Listen, I just watched The Hobbit the other day, so I'm really feeling my Smaug.
Trying to channel your inner Smaug.
My inner Smaug.
Oh dear. Okay.
Let's see.
Is this deck like secret Quarksaka? Is that what's happening? Do we just chill until we jam a Stormwind Con, right? Like that's
I actually think it's Secret Jorah.
Secret Jorah. Okay. But this commander has nothing to do with Jorah. That's my problem, right?
Okay. The reason I compare it to Jorah is because it's going to because the same way that Jorah is like stacks pieces and still storming, right? Like Quark Sakashima doesn't really have room in its deck to do those types of disruptive things. Whereas like a deck like Jorah, which is very artifact permanent based, is why I look at that and think that makes more sense. And then like we're both decks are working off the same, like trying to
What happened?
I don't know. I don't know.
Oh,
I had a thought.
Yeah.
And just like September rain, it was gone. Like
okay. Well, shit. All right.
There was a thought. There was a lot. I'll tell you this. It was thoughtful.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really trying hard to, find something that was really helpful to the conversation. But it got distracted. The thought did, not me.
Not you. Yeah,
I was focusing on the thought.
Yeah, right. The thought. It's kind of fucked up that the thought distracted you, right? Yeah. But you weren't distracted, to be clear.
I wasn't the one distracted. That was the thought that was distracted. The thought saw this really cool book over in the corner and ran over to it. And again, the thought did that, not me.
Yeah.
And I was trying to remember the thought.
Let's be honest, it was kind of rude of the thought.
It really was rude of the thought to like come knocking, give me this like thing to say, and then just be like, oh,
Right.
real quick, I gotta go over here.
Is this a high tide deck?
Yeah, don't tempt me like that, man. Don't give me hope. I can't hope again.
Cal, might be a high tide deck.
It might be a high tide deck. This might be like this might be a Mind's Desire deck too.
I mean, if it's a high tide deck, it's a fucking Mind's
Desire deck. Yeah, 100%. Oh,
hey everybody, welcome back to the Boomer Sculptors. I'm one of your co-hosts, Ian, and we're talking about
Ian and Boomer Cal.
2016 cEDH. Woo! Everybody, if you have no idea what the fuck we're talking about, buckle up. We're back in it. We were wandering in the forest, a little bit directionless. Now we've got it locked in. We're tutoring our high tide.
Refresh.
Sweet.
I feel so refreshed.
Wow. I am going to throw in a merchant scroll into the deck since
feels very apt.
Apt indeed. Yes. I will also be throwing in High Tide itself. I will also be throwing in a Spell Seeker, as that is a card.
Spell Seeker.
Okay, I'm going to throw in a Snap, a High Tide staple, maybe a Frantic Search. The kids say.
Oops. Oh, this deck is public.
Uh-oh. They're going to know our secrets.
Spoilers!
I do think there is something very funny about the idea of us trying to be a high tide deck and then like Magus of the Moon turns it into a mountain. Like, I hope that doesn't come up too much.
I don't know that would. It would only impact like a handful.
Vulcan steam vents in the fetches is the other issue. Like, is the fetches specifically, right?
Right, but if you have Harbinger of the Seas, then it's just like
Yeah, right. It's just
to the moon, baby.
Yeah, that's it. Yes, right. If you get Harbinger, it's literally better. Is Harbinger a wizard? You could play Step Through.
You know what's crazy? You know what else is a wizard? Magus of the Moon.
Yeah. Step Through it is, and so is Spellseeker. Okay, we're tutoring wizards here.
You're a wizard, Galazeth. I wasn't expecting that one to get you like that.
Whatever character that was is a raging alcoholic. Oh my god. Galazeth, you're a wizard. Is that we were playing Time Spiral? It must be, right?
What?
Were we playing Time Spiral?
Time Spiral. Which one's Time Spiral?
Exile Time Spiral. Each player shuffles their hand in the graveyard in their library.
Oh, Time Spiral.
Time Spiral. Then they draw 7 cards, and you'll untap at 6 lands. High Tide, baby.
Yeah.
We're zooming. We're zooming. We're boomering. We're doing it. I love it.
But we're not, millennialing it, which is really sad.
Are we probably on Candelabra then, right?
Oh yeah, this is also like a really good Saga deck.
Urza Saga? Oh yeah.
Yeah. Candelabra of Thanos.
I feel like maybe we should be, since we are going to go the high tide angle, right? Meaning blue is going to be really big for our deck. That probably means we want to be on the Sapphire Medallion, yeah?
Yeah. I also think what that does too is I think it answers the question if we're doing the Kiki Jiki package or not.
Yeah,
and
we're
I think
not.
the answer to that is no.
Yeah, I agree. I still think we can probably sneak in the dual caster, especially since we're on Step Through as it is, right?
Yeah. I agree for sure.
Dual caster, at least dual caster Molten, and then I kind of like the cackling counterpart type of thing. We'll figure that out maybe a little bit later if we need to.
Yeah, I've got a question for you.
What's up?
If you could dig through time,
is this a dig through time deck?
Is this a dig through time deck?
Yeah, sure. Let's do it. Are we treasure cruising?
Treasure Cruise is an interesting one.
I will say Dig Through Time and Treasure Cruise are directly antithetical to the Breach plan, to be clear.
Yeah. Yes, but Dig Through Time is just good. I feel like in this deck, it feels like a deck that we can get away with it. I don't know if we can get away with Treasure Cruise.
Yeah, fair enough.
But Dig Through Time, I think we just see so many cards and it's at instant speed that it's just kind of like free to play in this, especially given the fact that we're like, you know, making all of that extra mana and whatnot.
Yeah.
It is gross that Candelabra of Tawnos is 1 mana.
Yeah. And in this deck, like worst case scenario, it's just a 1 mana artifact that taps for an instant or sorcery mana, you know?
That's incredible.
All right. If you refresh the page, I've made a couple adjustments.
I don't know what that is you just did with your mouth there, but I'm going to ask that you refrain from doing that in the future. Another card that I was thinking about, your addition of Saheeli made me think about that is Third Path Iconoclast is a card that could potentially be decent here.
Well, okay, here's the problem. Oh, and this is actually a problem with Saheeli too, is that they're creatures.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore they're worse with Galatzeth.
Yeah, so you can't. Yeah. You know what? I do think we play Urza though in this.
Just playing Urza? Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, like why not? Like
yes. Urza, Lord
Give me the Urzy boy.
We're gonna add Displacer Kitten, I think, right?
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
I think we're adding. I still think we add Imperial Recruiter, right? Like because we haven't added a creature with less than 2 power so far in this deck.
I think we add Imperial Recruiter. I also think we add in Ska.
Yep, already in there.
Oh, is it?
Yep.
Oh, can you use a normal fucking printing to save your life?
This is like the only full art printing of this card. We said Mind's Desire is a win.
Yes, Mind's Desire we 100% put in. I think there's a world where we could talk about, this is the interesting thing that I always have with these Storm decks is, do we play what's it called, the red one, the sorcery, the Grape Shot? I feel like we play Grape Shot.
It's great with Ska, but that's kind of it. Like Archmage and Ska are like where it's best, right?
Right.
And I guess the new Ashling too.
We should probably be on Archmage, huh? Oh yeah, Ashling also seems really good in this.
There, Wizard. This is just turning into Kark Saga.
Evidently, but it's Kark Saga with like style.
Yeah, but it's like cool. It's cool when we do it.
Listen, y'all couldn't even fathom the cool factor that we're bringing to this deck, right? Like
I'm not supporting this energy for you right now.
We're bringing style to this shit. What do you mean you're flipping coins? You're flipping coins. This is do you think that the idea, the concept of gambling is something that we should be promoting in our decks? It's foolishness, tomfoolery.
So anyways, I'm thinking about Third Path Iconoclast and Saheeli, and like it might still be worth it to just have them be as delayed rituals. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, we also can do stuff at like, you know, it also just passively does stuff on other people's turns. I think the big concern is a little boy called Orcish Bowmasters.
Hoobly. Yeah.
That is a bit of a concern,
which is why I think this is definitely a Spellskite deck, right?
Yep, 100%. Let's see. I also think that this is okay. So this could be a Blue Suns deck. This could be a Turnabout deck.
Yeah, Turnabout probably.
We could play Turnabout, baby. Turnabout.
Yeah.
God, we really are playing CEDH circa 2016.
Yeah. Oh yeah. This is some old fashioned magic. We definitely need Pyro and Red Blast because we're gonna feed the shit out of Heuristic Study.
How do you feel about Capsize? If we're really going back, really going back.
No,
we're really going back.
I'm happy to plant my flag in there. No.
It's okay. I've always hated capsize.
Yeah, fuck out those.
Fuck that card. Let's see what else we got here. We already got Paradoxical Outcome. We probably want to play like a Pull from Tomorrow or something like that. Some X spell that we can dump like a bunch of mana into.
Just absolutely crunch into.
Yeah. Or like Blue Sun Zenith might be the
play
card.
Recurring Insight.
Recurring Insight, yeah, something like that. Is this an Echo of Aeons deck?
The more wheels we play, the more we get our absolute ish pushed in with Bowmasters, right?
That's true. That's true.
The concern, right? That's the biggest part of it. So like I already hate having to play Time Spiral. It might be worth it. Same thing with like a wheel, right? Yeah. But like these cards are very, very bad in the current metagame, right?
That's fair. That's fair.
And we're also trying to like disrupt and lock out our opponents. And now we're saying like, here you go, free refill.
Hey guys, would you like new cards?
Yeah. Time Spiral is a little different, right? Because like by the time we're jamming a Time Spiral, we should have probably like we are winning this game.
We're a ways away at that point.
Yeah, exactly.
Is this an Aetherflux Reservoir deck?
Probably, yeah. Are we keeping this Rain of Riches in? It's kind of funny.
It is kind of funny.
It is 5 mana though. It's a lot.
It's 5 mana. It's a lot of mana, and we can't cast it with any of our other.
Yeah,
which is notable. But it's kind of funny. But hear me out. It's kind of funny.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like it's a card I'd have to like see in action in order to really buy it, right? But I think like it. Here's the real answer.
Okay.
How often are we getting treasures in this? Commander only comes in and makes it
in that card. Yeah.
Right.
And Ska. Right.
Yeah.
Like that's
so maybe this doesn't feed our treasure. Maybe this doesn't synergize as much as we want it to.
Fair.
I think that's my thought.
Okay.
Because I think the way that I'm seeing this going is that a lot of our artifacts that we're going to use for mana are like stacks pieces effectively, right? Like or
until they're not,
right, or things that we want to be like out there, like we're generating soldiers or whatnot.
Yeah, and this is the awkwardness about this card is like we don't even have a lot of like interaction right now, right? Like
we haven't even added that in yet.
And most of our interaction is going to be defending our proactive use, right? Which that might be like a thing we can stick to in this deck, really, as a concept, which is like, hey, like we're not going to try and win through like we're not going to interact in the normal counterspell way, right? We're gonna more so try and interact by like disrupting early on with our moons and stuff like that, and then later on let's turn to this more proactive plan. You know what I mean?
I mean, I think we do need counterspells.
I mean, I guess.
Listen, I'm here to meme and joke and all of that as much as you want. But at the end of the day, I still need to be responsible with the platform that I've been given, and I still need to recommend that people not drink and drive. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay, so let's add the counterspell suite. So I think like Fluster is the necessary. I mean, we'll have Force of Will, obviously, and we'll have Swan Song.
Negation.
Do we want Force of Negation in here? We're trying to storm.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Fierce guardianship at least, right?
Yeah, fierce and swat, absolutely.
Fierce and swat. Fiercely swatted away, baby.
And for the sideboard, I'm putting Mind Break and Force of Negation.
Force of Negation.
I am okay with being a little greedier in this deck. I think that's kind of necessary.
Yeah. I think we also haven't even added in like the winter moon and winter orb and like those types of effects too, right?
Yeah, because those were the ones we decided or we talked about not necessarily going too hard into, right? Like the other orbs are better, right?
Yes, I agree. but like we could still decide, hey, these are worth playing, right?
And I think this is maybe right now we're seeing the contradiction of the two different strategies, right? Like if we want to go for this High Tide Storm plan, we should go for the High Tide Storm plan, right? And I think if we want to play mid range and then do like the tutor for value and then try and crank out that stuff, like that's fine too, right? I feel like we're kind of stuck between two different identities right now.
That's fair. I agree with that. So what do you want to do?
I think maybe High Tide's cute, you know.
I like High Tide. It's cute. But do you mean cute in a bad way?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I do. I think the storm stuff, like the more I'm looking at it, I'm like, we have a direction, right? Like I'm not opposed to that direction. I just think like I don't know if I believe that the direction will get there.
Don't believe in that direction. Yeah. Well,
because we're playing a lot of bad cards for this strategy, right? Like
you know what? High Tide. This isn't your time.
Yeah, so I think we decided to cut High Tide.
Yeah.
And then we can lean more into the
child. I said we'll come back for you, my sweet summer child.
We can lean more into the dualcaster shenanigans.
I think that makes more sense.
Dualcaster stuff and then breach stuff. And
so boring. No, it's fine.
Yeah, I just feel like this deck's going to be much more efficient if we can like place a well-timed spell, bounce the artifacts we need to bounce with our PO and stuff like that. Like this feels like a very paradoxical outcome focused deck. Like I feel like that is a big.
What was the other one that used to do stuff like that too? What was it? Baral's expertise, I think.
Yeah, that one does stuff. But PO draws cards, right? Like the other cards don't draw cards, which is the concern for me.
It's true. Does it not? I thought it drew. I need to remember this card. It's been several years since I have played a Baral's expertise in my time.
Yeah, Baral's expertise just bounces 3 things and then allows you to cast
3 target artifacts and creatures from. And then, I mean, it's not the worst.
No, it's not bad, right? Like it's just more so not what we're trying to do.
Yeah. Hey, Joyra players, bring back the oldies. Bring back the hits. This is what the people want. Huron. 87.5, The Rock.
How do you feel about that 3 steps ahead card? Do you think it's too cute?
Here's my question.
Yes.
This card to me feels like it is a slightly better cryptic command.
Okay.
Would you, in that framing, want to play a slightly better cryptic command?
I want to play a card that goes infinite with Dualcaster Mage, which that does.
Okay, but we already have cards that go infinite with Dualcaster Mage.
Yes, I think that's the best one. I actually put Cackling Counterpart back to the sideboard so we can play that.
You think 3 steps ahead is the best one?
Yes, because it's flexible.
Okay.
Finally,
I'm just saying that's a 3 mana counterspell.
Correct.
Okay. Can we?
Is it the best? No. Is it flexible? Yes. Is it one of the cuter cards in our deck? Oh yeah.
Yeah. You really have a different definition of cute than me. Yeah, I think it's fine. I just see 4 mana for that being a lot, right? Like because we're making this a 7 mana combo. And I think that is my concern.
Ish, right? Like
not ish. If we want this to combo with,
I mean, because of Galazeth, right? Like I'm saying, like the whole point is we have an abundance of instant and sorcery mana, right? Like that's
we will have a bunch of instant sorcery mana. I just don't know how much we're gonna have that we are able to hedge that heavily against it, is my question.
Cal, I think you're being a bit of a stinky pooper right now.
I'm being a stinky pooper. Okay, I'm sorry. Listen, I've been told I'm being too negative, so let's fucking go. Let's do 3 steps ahead, baby. Let's fucking go. No no potential bad thoughts, baby. Let's go. How do we feel? What now? I guess the next question comes like, how do we balance the mana base? Because we're doing this blue moon, we're doing the blood moon and the harbinger stuff, right? So we need to have an amount of non-basic or of basic lands, right?
Yeah. So yeah, that's the next interesting part, right? So we got 29 right now, which I think is, if anything, probably one too many, right? Which I'm not too pressed about. Like I think it works fine, okay, so moving from there, right? Let's get our fetches in, right? Easiest thing to add in. And in this deck, we're gonna prioritize fetches so much so that we're also probably going to add Prismatic Vista, seeing as this is a moon deck, right? Yeah. We want to get our basics onto the battlefield. So Arid Mesa, Flooded Strand,
Prismatic Vista.
Okay, so now we have 13 slots available, right? Now we have to start thinking a little bit more about the basics, right? I think we can at least start with like 3 of each, and I think that should be okay, I don't think we have to go super turbo crazy, and I think it's a mistake a lot of folks make when they work on some of these decks, right? And it's way different when you're playing back to basics, right? Like than when you're playing a deck like this, you know.
Okay, so we need
then there's the Pathway, which is one of the more suboptimal dual lands.
Yeah, I don't know that I like the Pathway.
I don't either. There's Command Tower.
Oh, well, yeah, we should add Command Tower. Do we just add like Training Center and call it a day?
It's probably Training Center, realistically. It's either that or the cantrip one, which his name is escaping me currently.
The cantrip one. Yeah. We talked about Thundering Falls?
No, that's the Scry land or Surveil land. The cantrip one is blue red Fire Atlet. That's it.
Oh, that one. No, I think we just play Training Ground.
Yeah, I agree.
Or Training Center.
Yeah.
Training Center. Added.
Sick.
That is 100 cards.
Mamma mia.
That's we only have 24 lands in this deck.
Yeah, 4 MDFCs, but yeah. Is this going to be like Nekasar where we're like, this deck's broken?
Sex what?
Do you remember with Nekasar we got like every god hand possible?
That's true. Well, this one's not a god hand.
Yeah, for sure.
So we go to second 7.
What do you mean? We have Ristic Study and a win condition.
I think this is a keepable hand though.
I can't see what the card is to the far left.
That is Harbinger Springgriff, Jesus. Harbinger of the Seas.
Hell yeah.
You can also expand this.
Yes, I still can't see it.
Okay. This is Harbinger of the Seas, Scalding Tarn, Swan Song, Pinnacle Monk, Grinding Station, Steam Vents, Chrome Mox.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. So that seems like a good opener because we can go.
Yeah. So the only awkwardness is like the fetch is a little awkward, right? Because you kind of want to. No, because actually what you can do is you can just put the red source under Chrome Mox, because that way, because I'm like, well, you want to fetch a basic mountain? I was like, you don't really need to fetch a basic mountain. You can just go use the red source for Pinnacle Monk, right?
Yeah. So you put the Pinnacle Monk underneath the Chrome Mox.
Exactly.
Let's see what we draw for turn. Oh, yeah. Mox Amber, even better.
Sick. Yeah. So turn 1, we just throw down the Grinding Station because we can, I guess. Because fuck it. Pinnacle Monk underneath it. Then next turn we can throw down the Harbinger.
Yep.
Draw a card. Shirk. Throw down good old Harbinger. And then turn after that. We have to hope we hit a land drop.
Ooh, we did not. We got a Force of Will, which is Akko, but
Akko Taco.
I still think we play out the Mox Amber, and
yeah, this is one of the reasons I was thinking of, like, maybe we wanted another cantrip or two, right? Like just once again, kind of old school Magic, like another Preordain or something.
Yeah,
just to make things a little bit cleaner.
Well, we also could have two, and this might have been smarter to have put the Swan Song underneath the Chrome Mox and fetch a basic, because then we have the Pinnacle still in hand to be our 4th land drop.
Yeah, I guess
I
also
think
like
that might have been smarter, but that might also be revisionist history.
I think that it might be a little bit of like,
Yeah.
we missed on lands a bunch, right? Like that's I don't know. The other problem with a hand like this, right, is like we're disrupting, but like we're not advancing,
We're
right?
not doing anything.
Yeah,
Is the
concerning.
issue.
Yeah. That's why I'm like, maybe we need a couple more like things to filter out.
Or maybe it was just a bad hand.
Maybe it was just a bad hand.
It might have been just a bad hand.
Yeah. We're learning. We're growing.
This is a learning experience.
What's the far left one?
That is Pinnacle Monk again. So we have Pinnacle Monk, Saga, Study, Jessica's Will, Iconoclast, Dramatic Reversal, and Command Tower.
Insanely slow, right? Like
very, very, very slow.
Yeah.
I don't think we keep that one.
I also don't think we keep this one.
This one is also very slow.
Yes.
We got Fetch, Fierce, Jeweled Amulet, Stormfield Artisan, Gamble, and Spellskite.
Yeah. If you, well,
yeah, it doesn't do anything is my issue, right?
Right. Well, next turn you get a lot of options, right? The Gamble in particular. Like I think I'm fine here. Just like turn 1, play Jeweled Amulet, charge it. Turn 2, Gamble for fish, and then like sit on that.
Okay.
To be honest,
I could see that.
Yeah.
Let's look at another 7.
Yeah.
Let's see. Well, this doesn't have any mana. So
Snapkeep.
This hand has Polluted Delta and a Volk and a Consider, and that's about it.
Yep.
We do have Step Through, which isn't terrible. Let's look at another 7. What do we got here? Whew. So we got a Mana Vault, Curse Totem, Mindbraid Track, Ponder, Soul Ring, Gamble, Polluted Delta. I wonder if we keep it.
Oh yeah, I keep this for sure.
Yeah, I think we keep this. So what do we draw for turn? Oh, we get a Saheeli. That's interesting.
It's interesting.
So we just go like land, get a Volk, Soul Ring.
Yep.
Mana Vault. Or do we play the Mana Vault, or do we just play the Curse Totem?
I think you play the Curse Totem. Yeah.
Yeah. And then pass.
Yeah.
And then next turn, oh, hey, it didn't fucking matter. Got the Snow-Covered Island.
Yeah, and this is what I'm talking about with the Ponder, right? Like look at how much that like gives us somewhere to go after this point, right?
Yeah, it does. Because Galazeth also is going to give us another mana here too.
Exactly. So I'm thinking like, yeah, maybe we need a few more of these 1 mana cantrips, or at least like 1 mana directions of where to go next. Like even like Personal Tutor, like to go grab us like some sort
Personal Tutor might be really good here actually, because
I think slow, that right, but like it's something.
Do we have Mystical Tutor in this?
Yeah, we already have Mystical Tutor. We already have Merchant Scroll. Like I think getting PO is like a big part of that type of plan. I'm trying not to have too many ways where we're sort of flooding out of resources, right? Like so like maybe like Urza is on the cuter side of stuff. Especially
it might be,
yeah. And like maybe Urza for like a preordain and stuff like that. Like a few pieces to just like clean up the
post Galazeth.
Yeah, or even like the turn before the Galazeth type of thing, right? Like Polywog and stuff like that are good for this deck. You know what I mean?
Right.
We don't need no lands.
Fucking lands.
Dun. Oh yeah.
Okay. This is something.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So we just like
something called a snap keep there, my
friend. Mystical Tutor for a card.
Yeah, so I mean, my game plan when I look at a hand like this one, right, is go, okay, yeah, I'm gonna have that Ancient Tomb, or not Ancient Tomb, 2 lands basically from the Gemstone into the Arcane Signet, basically holding a Mystical Tutor, right? If I'm gonna fire off Mystical Tutor, realistically, I'm firing off because I think I have the window to fire off the Mystical Tutor, I'm planning for the turn 3 target, and the turn 3 target in this situation would be some sort of card draw thing, right? Because we're trying to play Galazeth turn 2, get our treasure, all that kind of stuff, and then just crank something into drawing a bunch of cards on turn 3, right?
Yeah, 100%. Agreed.
Or if you want to go greedy, you go get step through here, so you can go grab Dualcaster because you already have Molten. But I think that's probably a very, very aggressive play.
Yeah, I think you'd have to be in a wickedly slow.
You'd have to look at the rest of your pod and go like, oh, I don't see any blue here. Like that's
That's basically it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think this is pretty solid. So when we like walk away from experiences like this,
Yes.
right? What are your biggest takeaways from this?
Yeah, I mean, it shows you that like win conditions are really important for CEDH, right? Like you can have a CEDH deck that sort of struggles to get some of those win conditions and things like that, and that's really a tough place to try and like push a deck. And if you're still trying to figure out like what that paradigm is, what is that relationship with win conditions in the format, and it definitely illustrated some really interesting stuff with this list. I think this is like very raw, like this is just sort of the initial idea with a deck like this, and it's gonna be kind of up to anyone who wants to pick it up to sort of explore those relationships with the cards and kind of see what comes next,
Yeah, 100%. Well, Ian, if people would like to do this with you in a training session, how could they look into doing that?
Yeah, absolutely. You can find me at youtube.com/ComedIan MTG, where you can find my channel, which always has all of my contact info in the description of these videos. But comedianmtg@gmail.com is the easiest place to take that first step in communication. Find me on Twitter and Instagram at comedianmtg as well. If you want to add me directly at Discord, it's comedian_MTG, very different from the other one. So make sure to pay attention to that. And that's about it. Yeah, I'm happy to contact people and talk about CEDH, trying to get them bruised for this new format, see how things are changing. Still pretty wide open meta, so there's a lot to explore and a lot of stuff that wasn't viable before, maybe that got a little bit of a boost. So hoping that trend tends to continue.
Yeah, the same. If you would like to support this show, you can head on over to patreon.com/the Mind Sculptors. Any support there is very much appreciated, helps us out on the channel a lot. Also, if you do not want to spend money to support us, you can head on over to that subscribe button right below here. If you're watching on YouTube, leave a like and a comment as well to help out the algorithm. And we are still at 9,867 subscribers, like I said at the top of the show. So if everybody watching this subscribed, we would get to our 10,000 subscriber goal immediately. So that would be really great. If you would do that for us, we would greatly appreciate that. If you were on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, make sure to leave us a review. That helps us out a lot on the audio side of the platform as well. And we really need to, as much as Ian hates that side of our audience, they are still there and they're still important.
Whoa.
You just wish they were on YouTube, don't you?
Yeah, exactly.
I listen, Radio Cal here. I see you podcast listeners on the Spotify and on the Apple Podcast. I hear you, I see you, and you are valid. But all that to say, thank you so much for joining us today. This was the Mind Sculptors. We had a great time. I'm Cal.
I'm Ian. Catch you next time.
Stay sculpty, everybody. Bye.